Hey there, TikTok fam. So I'm starting off with part one of my series called Black and Female in Corporate America, where I'm going to be sharing with you my own personal experiences of what it's been like for me as a Black woman working in predominantly white spaces. So my very first job that I had, I started out as an admin assistant. I was still in college at the time and had wanted to go into journalism or the legal field, and I thought whichever opportunity opens up first, that's where I'll go. I ended up getting an internship in my hometown at the local DA's office. And so started out there and progressed, and there were people who were moving up in different roles. So I initially started out there as a file clerk. They just need somebody to kind of work during the summer, 2 or 3 days a week. And then their admin assistant got promoted to a different position, and they offered her job to me. So took that role. And the interesting thing about that is, there's been all this talk about DEI, and a lot of people think that it pertains to us as Black people, but it's so much more than that. And I have a perfect example of it. My manager actually did not have her college degree. She didn't even have her high school diploma or GED, but she got placed in a management role because her husband worked in the government and was able to make a phone call to get a position for her. So she is my manager. Mind you, everybody, either, I'm working with attorneys, I'm working with other assistants and things of that nature. Everybody had something. She did not have anything. And it was an interesting dynamic in the way that she treated people for someone to be in that role. And, of course, she's white. So while I'm there, I enjoyed the work that I was doing, wanted to go ahead and get my paralegal certificate after I finished my bachelor's degree. So I got that, went to paralegal school, and there was this semester where I had to do what they call an internship. And it was supposed to be where I had to do specific things. And so the way the DA's office is set up, you have a criminal division and a child support division. So I worked on that side, dealing with family law and various issues of that nature. But I always had an interest in the criminal law side too. So as part of my internship, you had to do things like go to court, help prepare for a trial, do all these different things. And when my manager found out that I was in, the paralegal program, she started to be very territorial. Like, I could tell she was trying to hold me back because she wanted to keep me at the desk in that admin role. She was afraid that I was going to try to leave and go somewhere else, or even just try to transfer to the criminal division. And then the DA at the time was very supportive. Pretty much everybody at the office was, but she was not. And this goes back to, I know months ago there had been this catchphrase around, would you choose the bear if you walked into a conference room? Would you, rather it be a white man or a white woman? And, a lot of Black women said they'd rather have a white man as a boss, and not just any white man, an older white man. And there is a difference. I say I agree to a certain extent. They have to be 60 and older, because the thing about having a white man as your boss and they're older, they have this air about them when you walk into a room that says, say something, I dare you to mess with this person. And he was definitely that type of guy, and he knew what the world was going to be like for me as a Black woman navigating corporate spaces, specifically the legal field, because for those of you who work in that profession, it's still very elitist. It's still very white male dominated, very old school all across the board, even for just women, period, regardless of your race. And so he was, encouraging, let her go to court, let her do what she needs to do. And the crazy thing is, there was another employee there who was also Black. But one of the things I learned very quickly when you are in these spaces, and you might not be the only Black person, if you make white people uncomfortable, like you are close to their version of whiteness, articulate, you dress nice, you're attractive, you're educated, they don't know what to do with you, because they're expecting you to be a stereotype. They've got an image in your head of this is how Black women are. And so the other Black woman that I worked with was that, like our hours were 8 to 4:30, and so she needed to be there at 7:30, because we all know when you're the admin, you're answering the phone, you're managing all of these things. But she would just roll in any old kind of way, but she carried herself in a way that made them comfortable. So they really liked her, but they gave me a hard time. And my boss wanted me to continue to be in that admin role, even though she was being trained to do the work. I was kind of like her, becoming her backup, because she would have to answer the phones. She wasn't helping the caseworkers. Even the attorneys were complaining about her and all that. But my manager liked her and wanted to keep her there, but she was like, well, she needs to help. I needed to stay and help her do things. And the assistant that was on the criminal division side, well, why can't you let her go to court? You've got another person that can manage the phones. But she knew this girl was not doing her job, but she just wanted to keep me, boxed in. And so one day I said, I need to go to court because I had to put these things on my internship. Like, we had a list and we had to say, we went to court, we prepared for a trial, we sat in on a deposition, because this was part of my grade. And I emphasized that to my manager, and she was like, well, there'll be time for that. And I thought, she's really trying to hold me back to keep me from doing this thing, even if I stayed here to try to transfer, or if I just left altogether and found another job. So the assistant that was on the criminal side, she'd been at the office for years. And so she was just like, this is not right. So she calls the DA, because there were two offices. I worked in the one that he was not primarily at. She called him and said, this is what's going on. And he got on the phone with my manager and essentially told her, you need to let her do what she needs to do. And she tried to make things very, very difficult for me at that point, because she, now it's over her head. And she was, had lost that control. So, I was able to go and do some things on the criminal side and dabble in that area of law a little bit. I ended up, in fact, finding a different position and transferring to another department within the state. And it was because of the DA that I worked for. He helped me get that job. So just, kicking it off with that story. But stay tuned, because there's more to come. I will have a part 2.